Let me lock it in.
You want me to start off?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to Formation. My name is Archie Hooper. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm a senior officer here. I'm the Battalion Commander. This is my 4th year here. And with me,
I'm CJ Scott, the Bravo Company First Sergeant. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. It's my 2nd year.
so start off, tell me the hardest part of your job this year.
Okay. I would say, honestly, I think a lot of people are expecting it's hard dealing with people. It's hard, maintaining bearing in front of people, whatever. I think the hardest part is developing myself.
Yeah.
Like,
I was about to ask you, what have you gained?
Yeah.
So that's good response.
I think the hardest part was actually developing myself. There's a big difference between a basic cadet's lifestyle and a first sergeant's lifestyle. There's not as many people watching your every move. I have people looking at me all the time. But with all that added pressure, I feel I just kind of I got factory reset when I came here, and I just had nothing to do but build myself.
Yeah. I mean, when you're first year, you don't really see how things can benefit you. But if you apply yourself, I mean, you see where you are compared to where you used to be. Going through the motions of Hargrave was so hard my first year. If I redo it, it's going to be so easy because I've had a lot more on me, and it's been a challenge. It's been a rewarding challenge, but it's just never easy in the moment, which is good. I'm thankful for that. I know you're starting to realize that. That's good. And we still have a long ways to go. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think a lot of times in leadership positions, you kind of have to reflect on yourself after a while. You get used to doing what you're doing. Sometimes the harsh truth hits you that there's something that you need to adjust, even when you're really used to doing your own thing.
Yeah. Where was I?
Just talking about how hard it's.
Yes. So I definitely think there's a really big lesson that I wish I could automatically instill in a large majority of my guys. Right? You're always going to have somebody that's just going to immediately come here and be super successful because this is the place they needed to be.
Yeah.
But there's also this is definitely the place a lot of people need to be, but they don't get it yet. And that's what I was missing all of last year. I was kind of just wandering around mindlessly.
But what kept you going?
I think it was just the fact that I didn't want to. Well, for me personally, I think it was the fact I didn't want to let everybody down. I had a lot of, even without a leadership position last year, there was a lot of family and friends and especially faculty too. There was a lot of people that were expecting a lot of good things out of me. And so I think that was probably my biggest driving factor. But I wish I could teach everybody, give them just automatically transfer the wisdom.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between gained knowledge and studying knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah, I totally believe that.
Yeah, I wish I could just give the people my experience.
Yeah, and that will happen if people listen to you. And going towards that, what will get people to listen to you is the process of not giving up. I always use the word resilient. If I'm resilient, it's just never comfortable in the moment, as I was saying earlier. So they're going to be able to see it after a while, and we're about to be in the midpoint of the year, and they're going to reflect on themselves. The basic cadets or leadership cadets, really anybody, is just going to reflect on themselves. And if you haven't given up, if you've shown that you have a good attitude, because a good mindset and a good attitude really carries. If you've shown that, that's really what matters.
Right. Yeah.
People are going to start talking about it and see that and go up to you, because they can trust you.
Yeah, there's one thing that I've brought it up in I think 3 different conversations. I try to counsel people one-on-one as much as possible, and I'll take my ranks off, just man to man, and be like, hey, I care about you, and here's what's going on, and this is what should probably change if you want to go here. If you want to be better, if you want to be the best you, then my advice is, the first thing I'll always ask somebody is, what do you want to do when you get out of Hargrave? Or what do you want to do if you want to leave Hargrave right now? If you really just don't want to be here, then what's your plan? What are you aspiring to be? What's your goal? What's motivating you? Somebody might say, oh, I want to be a lawyer. Oh, I want to be, I want to make music, this, and this. So I say, okay, harness that and put it to the side and keep it right here. Now, once you can identify the steps, what to do and what not to do to get here, then I think everything becomes a whole lot easier. And I tell people, last year, I didn't have this. There was nothing that I was locked in focusing on. I didn't have anywhere I wanted to be. I had no idea what I was going to do after Hargrave. I didn't even know really what I was gaining from being here until I found where I want to go. Now that I realized I want to do this, everything is so much clearer. And it makes sense why I need to get up on time and be in the right uniform, and why I need to have my pins on the right side. Like, being meticulous and putting in that work and having that order, it just sets you up so perfectly for whatever you want to do. And so I try to stress that in as many people as possible. Like, once you can identify where you really want to go and what you want to do, then you can build the steps, know what to do and what not to do, who to talk to, who not to talk to, everything. And it just gets a whole lot easier.
Yeah, and it's just easy to say that it's not easy. The first thing I noticed coming from public school, going to Hargrave, was everything I was doing was just nothing I would be doing at home. It's nothing anybody else is doing at home. So, and that's hard. And what I really like about what you said is, when you're talking to other cadets and you're saying, like, what's your purpose? What do you want to do after Hargrave? Like, that's the best way to tell them that, yes, it's hard, but, sometimes we got to do what we don't want to do. And this is why it's going to be good.
Right.
Because from my perspective, coming to Hargrave, I didn't know what I was getting into. I was sort of fearful for what I was getting into. I didn't know if I would be able to handle the challenge. And, what I wanted to be told was, oh, we can make it easier for you, blah, 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 blah. Like, but the best thing ever was somebody telling me, get motivated. You have a purpose. You have two parents that you love, and just all this, everything really. But nobody ever told me that they were going to make it easy for me. And since I embraced the hardship, I feel like it's just been good for me, and it's been good for you. And our job and a bunch of other people's job is to sort of pass down those qualities that they developed here.
Right. So kind of bouncing off of that, one of the big things that I think it was First Sergeant Trent. I think one of the big things that he taught me during leadership school, I tried to absorb as much knowledge as possible, because that's when they're literally teaching you how to be a leader. I think one of the biggest things that I heard get reiterated a lot was kind of the fact that your job, no matter what leadership position you are, if you're a CO, if you're a platoon sergeant, your job is to teach the guy under you how to do your job and how to do it better than you, so then he can take your job. Because the goal should be, for me as a first sergeant, I should be teaching my platoon sergeant how to be a first sergeant and how to do it better than me. So eventually they can either, one, step into my position next year, or do it better than I can do it right now. So what is and I know that might look different for us, so how does that kind of factor in? Like, how do you take that plan of action?
Yeah, I say that that's the most selfless way you can say you want to train somebody. So, a lot of people nowadays, when they're stepping into something like a role, they want to have the spotlight, which is okay, because they feel like they can set the example for others. But it can get to a point where you can be too selfish and, care more about yourself than building relationships with other people. So I like what you said about developing your platoon sergeant, whoever, into the best person you can be, because that just makes everything run smoother. And with that, the respect that you'll get will be so good that you can build relationships with everybody. So First Sergeant Trent, he was talking about building relationships at leadership school. Ask somebody about themselves. Ask somebody. Just learn about people. And I feel like a lot of the TACs here, like Sergeant Blevins, my first year, Sergeant White, we were on Delta together, and for me, I was getting used to Hargrave, like as I've been talking about. But they treated me like family, and that's just what I really appreciate. So I just like the idea of building relationships, and that was sort of not. I answered your question in the first part, but I like what you said about stepping into the position and just trying to develop other people?
So they're a little different, little sidetrack here. What do you think was probably like, give me like top three on both sides. Why do you think you are in the position you are right now? Like, why do you think you're the BC? And then after that, what are like the three everyday biggest struggles? Like, oh, it's getting my getting the BXO to make all the lists or whatever it is. So
Yeah. Okay. So to answer your first question, why am I the BC, is because I set that goal from a really young age. I set it in my 9th grade year. I remember, and I took it one step at a time. I didn't feel entitled. I didn't feel too big for my shoes, as I always say. So I saw myself as a person that needed to learn from other people. So when I went to leadership school for the first time, I didn't go in there knowing everything. So I had to look at other people and say, hey, they're a little bit better than me right now. I can get to that. So I learned, and I'm thankful. Like, I got a position, but the best thing, I to this day, I think this is the reason I got BC, is because right when I stepped into a position, I cared so much about other people. I never gave up. I mean, it was everything from being in company leadership. So I was in company leadership. It was everything from picking my head out of the shower to telling kids to quiet down so the commandant didn't come upstairs, to just calling cadets in a formation. I never gave up, even though sometimes it was hard to get these kids to clean common areas. Sometimes it was, I got torn apart for, telling the kid to do not the easy right, but, the thing that they didn't want to do.
right.
I didn't give up, but what I appreciate the most is I never doubted myself, even though people were doubting me. So I was told that I wouldn't be able to do this. Like my first one of the senior officers my first year told me, he said, "I'm sorry, but you're not going to be battalion commander because you have so much competition in your grade. It's just not happening." And I was just like, okay,
Cool,
like,
dude.
I don't think he knows me. And then I had another member of company leadership tell me, he said, as long as so and so is in the running, like, you're not going to get sergeant major, and you have so much competition that you're just not going to be BC. And I was just like, okay, like, you don't know how I'm going to respond to certain circumstances that I don't believe that they will respond as well compared to me. And sure enough, the level of commitment I showed, I think, is what made everybody make that decision that I needed to be the one that could step up for really everybody in my grade and everybody in my school. So, and then the daily struggles and the daily challenges I go with each day, it varies a lot. So on the managing side, which I don't value, I do it to the best of my ability. I don't value the managing side as much because I love relationships and, making other people better. But the managing side, I just have to plan every event, not every event, but every cadet-led event that the Corps has. So tomorrow we have International Day. Last Monday we had Veterans Day Parade. And then for the parade before, I was just keeping track of all the uniform items that we needed. And that was a struggle. And I've had to communicate with a lot of adults here about International Day. So those are some examples. And that all falls into like the honor company standings and points. So, I have like a S shop, Baker's constantly working at the quartermaster. Pittman is making sure ops runs well. So that's part of the managing side. I say the most challenging part of the managing side is the planning and everything. So that's what I tend to focus on. Like, each time I get the opportunity to sit down and, work with battalion staff. I try to train the sergeant major to the best of my ability. I think he's really good. I told him that he could be better than, I was, and better than the one before me. So I think he's getting there, and my goal is to lead him to that spot. And for each challenge that gets put in front of him, I can sort of guide him through so he can just have the knowledge. But for the leading side, it really, sometimes my life is just like a piece of cake because, company leadership just has so many good qualities. But whenever a company I feel like it's just falling apart, I feel like I can, I've talked to you a couple of times this year because I knew you had these guys on the right track. It just didn't look like it. So I try my best to talk to company leadership on a regular basis. And whenever a company's struggling, I can talk to the cadets in the company. And I've gone up to barracks to talk to cadets, So I've talked to a CEO, like 3. I've talked really, I wouldn't say formally, but I've tried to give the most helpful advice to 3 CEOs who didn't know what to do this year. And I think that was a journey that made me closer with the CEOs. So it's just really whenever a company is just in a struggle, I feel like I can put my foot down and sort of help out with whatever they need. And I think that we're on the right track to just train really like everybody in this company leadership positions because they're learners, which is great. It'll make them good leaders.
Okay. Quick little intermission. What is tomorrow for honor company points?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it's on a scale. 20 points is first place. So it goes 20, 15, 10, 5, 2, 1.
Okay. I gotta lock in. I'm playing badminton tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you see Delta Company going all the way for President's Cup?
It's for sure a possibility because the little guys, they're very impressionable. So anybody saying anything will really affect them.
Exactly.
So if we can get the leadership to do the right thing, or the CEO for Delta Company, Kelston, can get his leadership to do the right things, and he can do the right thing, then that carries so much of Delta. So I see it as a possibility, but I think that there's other companies that have the teamwork aspect that could be a lot better than Delta. I mean, I think Delta's great with the teamwork side of things, but the older guys, I mean, they can get along in very special ways. So I think the way they can work as a team can be very, very good. So, you have the biggest company. So, I mean, it's going to be really easy for your company if all those guys get on the same page. And, I think they're starting to respect each other a lot more than they were at the start of the year.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you have guys that have been here for a while. So, I told you, time heals all. So, Bravo has a good shot at catching up, and Alpha's been doing pretty well, even though they haven't gotten recognized for a lot of stuff. They've shown effort. And, the Echo guys are kind of like the Delta guys. They're easy to motivate. Charlie's a little bit of a struggle because, it's 2 different mindsets because you got like day students and then PGs.
Right, yeah.
But the PGs work as a team. And Horton, the leader told me, Horton said that for the next drill competition, he's bringing it. So I believe in the PGs as well. I think we have a good group of guys this year. And then, band has had their struggles this year, but they're starting to get along a lot better, and the officers are doing the best their ability to train the first sergeant and the platoon sergeants.
Exquisite.
All right. We're back.
And we're back. All right. So I was just gonna touch on. I did really agree with what you said about Delta. They're really impressionable. I say it a lot. They are like dry sponges. You can just pour straight into them. It's just because they haven't had as much time to build their own habits and get stuck up in whatever ways they might be in.
Yeah. The reason, there's 2 main reasons that the sponges in the company are more damp. It's because there's more guys that have matured, but they've also had more high school experience. So, and some of them have been here for longer. So, that's just a challenge. I mean, sometimes, if I'm trying to tell somebody what to do that's been here longer than me, it's not easy because they might look at me a different way, but it's just how you react to it. It's just, push them to do the right thing. Got your back, you got my back.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, and it's no shade on Bravo Company. My guys are great, and I'm going to continue to, be there for them the whole way through. But it's hard to instill that like property in somebody when they're already halfway soaked up with water. You only have so much room, and that water might be old too. that sponge might have been there for a few years, and then you try to put new water in there, and you know, it's hard to have to break old habits and then rebuild new ones. And with Delta Company, those guys are so young that you don't really have to break too many of those old habits because they haven't even been able to set them yet. So it's definitely there's pluses and minuses for each company. Shout out to Delta leadership though, they're doing great.
Yeah. And I mean, I really affirm all of Bravo leadership because with y'all being the biggest company, it's just nothing's really been easy. So
Right.
for sticking it through and just trying to talk to the guys and help them out has been really good to see. So, but I'll tell you that, and this goes for a lot of other people. You know, we have first sergeants and COs who just have these qualities. Like you especially, I saw us at leadership school, and I don't even know if you knew this, but I think that you're just naturally a leader. The way that you can, you know, stand up, say something, and people will sort of draw to you. And you know, that's sometimes that is why people get selected to a position, because it's just about the self-confidence they have to make something happen. People will go to them and, you know, just try to be around. And then from there, it's just, you know, it can be a cakewalk because all it can be is just trying to develop yourself into the best you can be.
Exactly, yeah.
And do we make mistakes?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Of course we do. And none of it's going to be perfect, and we're going to need help because I have people in my ear telling me what to do, and some of it I'm just like, you know, I don't think it's necessary, but some of it I'm like, well, what would I have done without the information?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I needed that. And I say this anywhere, anytime, like I've had help, and the help has carried me. You know, people talk about these NBA teams, you know, somebody carries them to victories. Yeah. You know, I feel like I've been carried enough.
Yeah.
I've had help, and, you know, we've all had some grace here and there because we're just not perfect. But it's just, you know, over time, if we can see improvement in ourselves, that's the dream come true. And that's why I would tell anybody, if you're a Hargrave and, you know, you've stepped up squad leader positions or color guard or cannon rifles, just doing something outside of your comfort zone, you know, taking an extra step, go to leadership school, or just try to help out other people just in your daily life, because there's just nothing that we really have to lose. I said this at leadership school, like there's nothing we have to lose. You know, we've got to stay focused, and we've got to make the best environment for Hargrave, because we teach to be selfless, and, you know, it will make us feel better about ourselves if we know that we're putting in our piece to the puzzle.
All right. I like that. So my last question for you is, I'm going to take this chance to get a little bit of criticism. What is something that I'm doing well that isn't just First Sergeant Scott thing, like that you see reflect throughout Bravo Company, the fencing team, the whole Corps? What is something that I'm doing well? And then what's something that you think I can do better, or something that you think I should start doing that would really make a big difference?
Well, I'll say what you are doing well is being yourself. And by that, I mean just not really worrying as much about what other people think about you, and just focusing on, you know, trying to give the helping hand that people need. So, you know, I'm, of course, you know me, I'm gonna have to elaborate on it. I have gotten stuck in positions where I care way too much about what other people think about me. And, you know, that varies, because my brother, you know, I think my dad once told him, you know, you care way too much about what other people think about you. And here, you know, I thought he was really himself here. And, but I was the opposite. You know, here, I just cared way too much about what people thought about me, as if I was constantly getting observed. So I like that about you, because I can just tell that you're CJ Scott. Nobody's ever going to take that away from you. And I've told this to some of your cadets who are struggling. Like, nobody's ever going to take that away from you. Just be yourself. I think that's the best part about you, because as I said, you're a natural leader, and people just like that. People feel like they can talk to you because you're not fake. Something I think you need to improve, and this goes for a lot of people, is just all around maturity. So, yes, you can get carried away. And I think this is, we've all been immature a little bit. And this is definitely something that you've gotten better with, but there's just certain times where, you can be the helping hand even when you don't even think it's necessary. So sometimes you do get carried away, but to show respect for other people in charge or people below you, you just need to say, hey, like, I'm going to set the example real quick so that they know too. So that's the only suggestion I would make to you. And I think you've gotten a lot better with it because you set the example, but sometimes you can get carried away. Just like me, I've gotten carried away a couple times, and you know that too.
All right, Mr. Hooper.
Yep.
That's formation. See y'all.
See you later.